Welcome back, everyone, to Along the Road. We're here in the springtime in New Hampshire at First Congregational Church in Kingston, and I'm Pastor Josh.
And I'm Katie, the Children's Discipleship Director here.
And we are just excited to meet with you every week, have a little discussion. As Katie and I were saying, we're just having a talk here. And a lot of times,
this is not a scripted, planned out thing.
It's definitely not planned out. We plan themes and ideas and the things that we're talking about. Direction. And so we were talking, made a little plan, and we said that we would talk about worry today. Worry could also be called anxiety.
I think it seems like there's levels of it.
There are levels of worry and anxiety and stress, all the way to panic attacks and more. I had a therapist tell me once, many years ago, we are an anxious people. It's built into who we are.
Why? Because God didn't create it.
No, right? God did not create us that way, but our brokenness leads it that way.
Okay.
We want to control everything, and when there are things not in our control, it's difficult for us.
It gets under our skin.
It gets under our skin. Sometimes it agitates us, but it also, the unknowing, and the unknowing can sometimes be way bigger than it really is. And
also the opposite is true.
And the opposite is true. Yeah, that's true. So we worry for a lot of different reasons.
Yes.
And sometimes you see it's more innate in others, in some rather than others. Like you can even see it in children. Some kids really worry about everything.
Yep.
And some kids do not.
That's right.
Some kids probably should worry about some things.
Also true.
And they do not. And then there are those, and I probably fell into this category where it looked like you were not worrying about anything, or you weren't nervous about something or anxious about something, but you really were.
On the inside.
On the inside. So
sure.
I presented as a kid, especially because I have ADD, I presented as someone who's super excited about things. A lot of energy. I'm not hyperactive. That's a little bit different, but as an adult now, so much knowing, the more anxious I am, the more energy comes into my body.
Interesting.
And so it makes me want to, it looks, especially as a kid, they look excited about the program. They look excited about the play. And some of them are, but many are not. And there's nothing wrong with being anxious.
Right.
Nothing wrong with being nervous. Nothing wrong with confronting those fears and working
pretty
through
normal.
that. It's very normal. It's just that I think many times in fear, worry, anxiety, they do this to us, that I have this and no one else does. Everyone else has it together. See, that kid looks like he's having so much fun, and you don't realize they're really nervous on the inside. Right. You know, the thing we joke about sometimes in church, you know, I'm like the duck on the water, and you look all nice and calm, but underneath your feet are going like crazy. Just trying to stay afloat, and that's what it's like. So the first thing I think is that we look at others and compare their outside to our inside. We don't realize that they're probably doing the same to us, and they look at our outside. And if people had an idea, if you had an idea of everything going on in my head, stressing me out even today, you'd be like, whoa. If I had an idea of everything going on in your head, stressing you out even today, because our worlds are so much bigger inside our head, and all the different connections and things we're talking about, I think we'd be surprised that even the most confident person, they have worries and fears and anxieties. It's more about how you control them, what you do with it, your response to it. Learning about yourself is very important.
Yes.
So all of that is an introduction, right? And then your husband, Chuck. Hi, Chuck. I know you watched, so either. I know you watched because he knew we were talking about worry today, because you said, I'm worried about the video that, I don't know what you actually said. But he sent me and texted me a quote. And he said, there's this guy named Dr. Thurman Fleet. He's the founder of a chiropractic type of care. But he gave a definition of worry. And I really like the definition. I've been thinking about it this morning as I was driving and doing other work. And this is the definition of worry.
It's long, so we might have to break it up.
Well, we can break it up a little bit, and then I think what we can do is we'll actually put that definition down into the comments.
That's a good idea.
We'll put it in the comments. So, worry is a destructive state of mind manifested in the form of mental distress concerning some person, thing, circumstance, problem, condition, situation, and associated with the emotional state of apprehension, fear, anxiety, dread, or regret. That's a lot. It's pretty comprehensive.
Like I said,
this
it's
is
long.
Very comprehensive. And thank you, Chuck, because that puts a lot of those thoughts that are in my head onto paper. And then this Dr. Thurman talks about the spectrum where worry is on one side, but on the far other end is hope. Mm. And I hadn't thought of that. What's the opposite of anxiety? Where is the hope? Mm-hmm. You know, and so we can look at this and understand this. He says it's a destructive state of mind manifested in the form of mental distress. I mean, that sentence alone would be enough.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
You know, how our minds attack it themselves. Mm-hmm. And then it gives us not distress on the outside. It may end up giving physical reactions. That's what a panic attack is.
Right.
You
or
get that.
Sometimes, you know, your face breaks out in acne.
Yeah, there's different things, whatever it is, you know, and you get anxious, and some people they turn red, and
yep.
You know, but that's not where it started. It started in the mind, and I like the destructive state of mind. As I've learned a lot about myself as an adult, learning and understanding that I have ADD and what that means, what it is, I've had to learn that part of having ADD is that the way your mind works just causes worry. I've talked with people who don't have it, mm-hmm. Talked about what it is, and part of it is I can be in a room full of people, and every single thing matters because my mind is trying to go. And someone without ADD, they can be in a room full of people, and they can just shut off all these things without thinking. Mm-hmm. And the person in front of them or the thing right here is what matters. So when your mind is so overwhelmed with all these things, that's why I like that destructive state of mind. My state of mind is like, oh my goodness, so much going on. And you have to like train it not to be that way. And then it brings in mental distress. Mm-hmm. I'm talking to you, but I hear somebody say something over here, and it triggers a word in my mind over here, and I start stressing out about.
And your brain is just going.
It's weaving things. I'm filling in their story, but I'm supposed to be listening to you, and I'm over here. You know, so first know yourself. Maybe if I've had to learn that that's just part of who I am. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean I don't do anything about it.
That's right.
We can aim to that in a little bit. That doesn't mean I don't do anything about it.
Yes.
But it is part of who I am. I do have to, in other words, make good bedfellows with my anxiety.
Yes.
It's there.
Accept it.
Accept it. Embrace it. And the more I have done that, the less power it has, which I thought was always the opposite. It's a whole other story for another day. So it's a form of mental distress, but what does it concern? And I like the whole list, basically everything.
Pretty much.
Person, thing,
yeah.
A circumstance, which is usually a big one, a problem, usually, and it's always worse when it's a problem that came out of nowhere.
Yes,
a problem
unexpected.
That you had a plan, a condition, a health condition, does that a lot, or a situation. You know, we know for some people going into the holidays, or we have to go visit family at this place, that's just hard.
Yep. Or another situation would be driving at night in the rain.
Yeah. You know, and you kind of get worried about that. So you know, there's a whole gamut of what that is and what this concerns. One of the things that gets me all the time in circumstance and problem is when someone says, Pastor, I need to talk to you about something. And there was actually an email newsletter out there, and there's a meme out there right now, too, about someone who says, Pastor, I need to talk about something, and then another one that says, Pastor, I want to talk to you about this thing. It's not a big deal. This is what it is. Can we meet sometime? One is very easy. Okay, I understand. This is a topic, even if it's a difficult topic, but I know where we're going. Yeah, the other one is, what is,
it's so
oh my goodness,
open.
And there's a lot of stress that comes with that. Mm-hmm. Don't do that to your pastors.
No.
Give them the subject line.
Yeah. I
actually will tell people, I won't meet with you unless you tell me what this is about. Mm-hmm. I have said that here. I learned to start saying that at my other church. I won't, you know, because between Sunday when like I have to talk to you, we're going to come in the middle of the week sometime, and whenever you show up, I can't think about anything else. Yeah. But if you say, I'm concerned about what you did here, even if it's a concern thing,
Yeah,
okay,
right.
that's fine. Or I want to celebrate this, or I have an idea. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
No
you don't
problem.
even have to say what the idea
Yeah.
is. That's not the point, is
But
it?
then I worry the whole point about it if they don't tell me. So
Yeah.
just as a side note. And it's good
And
to
that's
do with
fair.
anybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because your mind, I mean, that's the way your mind works,
Yeah.
isn't it? You have your mind just tends to go in all directions. You know, you get an irregular test back,
Yeah.
a blood test, say. And, you know, by the time you go to the follow-up, your mind has you dead and buried.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it could be any of these horrible things.
Yeah.
And maybe you just need some thyroid medication.
I freaked out last night because I found a tick on me and I hadn't been outside. I hadn't done much that day, but we kind of figured out where it came later. But oh my goodness, I found this. Where is it? It was on the back of my neck.
Yeah.
I was like, ah! It was anxiety, worry, and then it associates an emotional state,
Yeah.
an apprehension, fear, anxiety, dread, or regret. Like all these are reactions. All that comes up. I'm like, I got this, and so what do we do about it?
Good question.
Good question.
With many different answers.
With many different answers. I think the first thing we do, well, at our house, one of the things we do is we say, is this really the level that you think it is?
Ah,
Especially, like I said, I have ADD and you have a child that has it as well. We tend to go, and if you're a person with the same ADD or something, you tend to go from 0 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is 100.
And lickety split, yeah.
And you react with 100. It's the end of the world. I'm going to get fired today. And really, someone just says,
Panic attack,
could you
yeah.
please just call next time? You're not getting fired. I want you to call. Oh, okay. Yeah, so we go 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And so the question we ask, is this really as big as you think it is? And so what we tend to do at home is then let's speak facts into this.
Mm.
Are there parts that you're uncertain? Sure, that we don't know. There is a part of worry that's healthy,
That's right.
I think.
Well, it's that flight instinct in you.
Yeah. Fright or flight. You're going to freeze, you're going to fly, which one you're going to do. So first question, when that really hits you,
Mm-hmm.
usually that first interaction, is it as big as I think it is? Sometimes I need someone's help with that.
Yeah.
My wife or a close friend or something.
Sure.
Oh, is this the end of the world?
Basically, it's step back and take a breath.
Yeah. Take a breath. Mm-hmm. Speak facts into it. Do I do my job well? I think I do. So do I do my job well? Have I done that? Okay, it's probably not getting fired today type of thing. Maybe I was a little overreacting. And then speak the facts into it. Okay, now I've brought the box down here.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing we do is, what physical things can I do to help my mind and body come back down from that jump?
Yep.
And anybody who's watching anything like it would know, okay, very first step really is just take a couple deep breaths. Like, really, you breathe in. Circular breathing is something they talk about. You breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you breathe out for 4, and then you hold it and you do it again. Mm-hmm. You do that several cycles. It'll actually lower your blood pressure. It'll actually bring you back down and bring your mind to a place. If you're someone like me, I tend to close my eyes. It reduces the amount of information coming to my brain, and as an ADD person, I need that.
Yep.
And it quiets the mind a little bit.
Yep.
Maybe you don't. I know you're not an ADD person.
No.
So you wouldn't need to close your eyes. So you have to learn a little bit about yourself. What bodily thing do I need to do?
That's right.
Maybe I need to just walk away from this for a second.
Mm-hmm.
In the midst of with somebody, I'll be back. And I just need a moment.
Yep.
Being honest. Hey, whoa, I just need a moment. Bring it down. It doesn't. What's interesting to me is always it doesn't change the situation.
No, it doesn't, does it?
You haven't made a decision yet. You haven't done anything yet. All you've done is remove that, as I would say, as he starts, the destructive state of mind. Mm-hmm. And now you start, in that spectrum we're talking about, like you start thinking of the hope part. And we haven't even mentioned yet, all this is just biological, emotional things. We haven't even mentioned yet where we place Christ in this.
That's right.
It's quite a thing, and that's,
Yeah.
but he's built all that into us, I believe. The Creator has done that, And so then I have hope more than even, I don't know if this guy's a Christian or not who wrote this, but, I have a hope that a non-believer doesn't have.
Right.
That even if I do get fired today, I am solid in my eternal aspect with Christ and where I'm going. So there is a hope that I have that isn't somewhere else.
The other hope that you have that someone else doesn't have is that God will never give you more than you can handle.
Yeah, I kind of always push back on that one.
Oh, do you?
I do.
It says it in here, though.
It does say that in there, but contextually you have to understand scripturally. God will not give you more than you can handle, but for most of the apostles that meant death.
Right.
So understand that you may not understand, like it may lead you to your grave. Like literally, if you're in a place like that, it may lead you to the darkest valley that you've been in. That doesn't mean he's not there and sustaining you through it.
That's right. I'm not saying that it's not a bad thing that's coming. I'm not saying that.
That's why I always push back. People tend to go, well, he's not going to give me more than I can handle, so it won't be that bad. And they kind of like throw their hands up like,
No. And that's not what I meant by it.
Okay, well, good.
What I meant by it is that he doesn't give you more than you can handle, partly because he gives you the ability to handle it.
Oh, see, that's different. You should have finished the sentence the first time.
Sorry. I didn't know you would jump to the other conclusion.
I do. Anytime someone's like a little close on the biblical thing, I jump to that. I definitely do that. Yeah, so Paul tells the Philippians about worry. And there's other places where they talk about not being anxious. And he talks about bringing prayer before the Lord. I'll read that. I think I marked it in here. It's in Philippians. Most people know about this. And he tells them to rejoice, always again, to rejoice. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. To me, that's step one. That's that talking facts. And then step two is the part that you talked about. The next part of verse 5 is, the Lord is at hand. Which is interesting. Speak facts. The second part of that fact is, God is right next to you. He is right there. Now, first those two, right?
Right.
Now, do not be anxious about anything. Most people start at verse 6, which says, do not be anxious about anything. This actually starts back in verse 4, which starts with rejoicing always.
Yep.
How do we do this?
Yep.
Facts, reasonableness. God is right next to you. He's always there. Now don't be anxious about anything. Why or but what do I do? Bring it all to prayer and supplication. Supplication to me more like begging. Help me.
Yes.
But you do that with thankfulness, knowing that God will take you through or be with you, or as the psalmist says, in the valley of shadow of death, you are with me. Help me. That's the thanksgiving. I thank you that you're even here now in the midst of my struggle, my worry, my anxiety. And that's hard to think of sometimes. And then it says, let your request be made known to God. Let him know how anxious you are. Like, speak those out. And the more you speak it, I've discovered, the more you name the anxieties,
verbalize it,
the less it comes down. And then you're sharing it with your Creator. And then verse 7 is one that a lot of people, I think, kind of get wrong. It says, the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And we go, well, the peace of God just passes all understanding. But what you don't understand about God's peace is that it's an active thing. Because verse 7 says, this peace, which surpasses all understanding, like we don't get it.
Right. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Yep.
When you're in the midst of a great loss or in the midst of a tragedy, especially as a believer, that an amazing sense of peace can come over you. It doesn't make sense. But it says that this peace, what does it do? It has an active verb. It guards you. It's like a shield. It's not just like, oh, you're going to have peace. Like there's an active place to it. Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah.
And to think of peace as being active.
That's right.
That it is doing for you, your heart. And remember, this guy talked about our emotional distress.
Yeah.
That's our heart. And your minds. That's that destructive state of mind. So Paul talks towards those things. But you can't just say, oh, Philippians says don't be anxious about anything.
Right.
That's where I would have jumped on. If you'd have said that, I would have said, oh, let's go and catch the whole context of that and see where that is and move forward in that. And then he gets into, and see, that's why you have to connect it. Scripture, this was not written in verses. This is a whole connected thought. So then, finally, whatever is true, whatever is noble, now put your mind on these things, which once again is speaking facts. It's amazing how the secular version, which these work, match up with the biblical version, but the secular version doesn't have the peace of Christ guarding your heart and mind.
Right.
It's left on you, the imperfect person, to try and do it.
Yeah.
Here, God is doing all the work, and then He's giving you the strength to think of what is true, think of what is right, honorable, pure, lovely, commendable, excellence, worthy of praise. Yep. And walk through those. I always think of that, and I think of the Old Testament Ebenezer. We did that recently for our Tenebrae service.
That's right.
And we all had stones, and we actually had it in the Red Fellowship Hall. We had this big stone pile that we call the Ebenezer, because an Ebenezer was a stone altar built, and you can find it in the Old Testament in a couple of places, and it is a pile, and it says, make this, and then every time you see it, you'll remember this action.
It's a memorial.
It's a memorial. We actually transferred it. It's out in the Pine Grove now. And so when you think of these things, and you look at what God has done, and you're putting facts to it, I go back to these Ebenezer moments, flag moments. And so look at the last 5-10 years of your life. Really big moments where God walked you through it. Maybe it did all fall apart, and here you are now, still okay. You know, and get to that place and turn around and look at. So you build your mental Ebenezers. I say, turn around and look at them. This is a time to look at the past. You know, we don't drive looking in the rearview mirror, but there are times we look.
When we're stopped.
When we're stopped.
Then we can look.
We're in the middle of that emotional, destructive state of mind, and we're starting to speak facts to it. Turn around and look. And see those Ebenezers. It'll transform the song with the word Ebenezer in it for you. Here I raise my Ebenezer, you know. Because that's what you're saying. Here I'm raising my altar to the remembrance of what you have done.
Yes. I don't want to forget.
Yeah, I don't want to forget. So I won't discount that worry is something we have to deal with. It's not going to go away.
Right.
You know, this doesn't make all anxiety just go away.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, going back a little bit to more to the beginning of, it's normal to worry and to be anxious about situations because we don't have perfect control.
Yeah.
I heard a very interesting sermon once, though, that said, when you worry, which I think of as intentionally dwelling there, when you worry, you take away from God's glory.
Interesting.
Because you're saying that I need to spend my time thinking about this because I don't think God can handle it.
Or you're not trusting that He can handle it. Yeah, I would say that. So, yeah, I think it's a beginning conversation, but to understand that we will have it. Yeah. It'll always be there. And there are parts of worry that are healthy.
Yeah.
You know, fear, anxiety, there are parts of it that are healthy. You know, when I worked in a high area and when I worked in a theater and I'd have to climb out on a rafter or do something and I might have had some straps on, but like you are afraid of falling. You do worry about what will happen. You do have anxiety there. But if I wasn't, I probably would have fallen.
There you go.
There is a safety portion to it.
Element, yes.
We worry that we're gonna lose power. So you probably all have some flashlights in your house.
And if you have a well with a pump, you
probably have a generator.
Or water set aside.
Yeah.
If you've got a math test coming up. If I don't study, I'm not going to do well.
Yeah, so there's some healthy portions to it, but they should be very small. And you are controlling, or you and the Holy Spirit are controlling your actions for it. If you did nothing and you froze in that worry, flight or fright, if you float and you wouldn't have studied, you would fail. Well, then it came true.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But you weren't doing, even as Philippians says, you weren't doing the active things. You didn't rejoice. You didn't do this. You didn't think on these things. There's a lot of active things that are given to us, and the Holy Spirit works with us. You didn't study. Yeah. So that's kind of the process I think I want us to walk through and think through, and not be afraid to say I'm anxious about something. I worry about this.
That's right. Because we've all been there.
Yeah, and I say to people, and most people in our church, when they ask me that, I say, I'm an anxious person. I know I don't look like one when I'm out there, when I'm doing stuff, but I inside, very much an anxious person.
Yeah.
And so learning to deal with that, work with that, and speaking it removes its power more and more. The hidden things have more power.
They sure do.
So we kind of bring that down.
They sure do.
So you have a student Bible here that you found.
I do.
And it had a little interesting part in its little study extra section.
That's right. 7 reasons not to worry.
Okay, so let's do these, and we'll use these to kind of bring us to a close here.
This is based on chapter 6 of Matthew.
Okay.
All right, so the first one is, the same God who created life in you can be trusted with the details of your life. Number 2, worrying about the future hampers your efforts for today. Worrying is more harmful than helpful. 4, God does not ignore those who depend on him. Number 5, worry shows a lack of faith and of understanding of God. 6, there are real challenges God wants us to pursue, and worrying keeps us from them. The last one, living one day at a time keeps us from being consumed with worry.
Yeah, the last one's a big one.
Yeah.
We worry a lot about tomorrow and the next day and the other things.
And the what ifs.
And the what ifs. And
yeah.
All that, if you want to go back and read it, is from the Sermon on the Mount.
Yes.
And he talks about
Chapter
that,
6.
and he asks about why you worry, and he talks about look at the flowers of the field and how God dresses them, look at the birds and how God feeds them.
Yep.
And then in the children's Bible book called the Jesus Story Bible Book by Sarah Lloyd Jones, is I think her name. Yeah. She actually writes this part of it almost humorously. Mm-hmm. She has Jesus saying, "Do you see the flowers at the mall buying a dress? Do you see the birds at the store buying their groceries? No, because God takes care of them. How much more are you?" You know, so and I think she picks it up pretty well, because I think the Sermon on the Mount, we always take it so serious, but I think there's some humorous parts in there. Mm-hmm. Jesus wouldn't have been a 100% serious speaker. There are some humorous things that he talks about in there and brings out to people. So, all of that kind of comes out of that chapter 6 part of the Sermon on the Mount. So, yeah, we tend to think too much about what's further out. So, one day at a time. Nothing wrong with being prepared. Nothing wrong with utilizing fear and worry. But you can actually, I've learned, build a stamina to it. So you can handle more.
Your capacity for it.
Interesting. But think about it. I mean, the capacity to be able to do those things amidst all those fears. Would Moses have been able to lead the people out of Egypt had he not gone through 40 years of being running away and hiding? And then look at all the fear he had to go again. And then he had to lead the obstinate people for 40 more years around the desert. Right. You know, so there is a growth that happens in there, and his ability to deal with the leadership, ability to do those things. I think of Joseph the same way. Sure. You know, who was a haughty kid, said, "You're all going to bow to me," and spoiled. But you don't think there was worry and fear and anxiety in each of those moments in the well and being sold to slavery and being,
once he wasn't in control anymore. That's right.
And he had to get to this point.
Stuck in jail and remember me, but he doesn't. And
so you have all of those portions. And so I think you can find that in Scripture, that God may not give you more than you can handle, but he expects a lot more out of you than you think.
He has more faith in you than you do in yourself. Yes.
And then as you spend time with him, believe it or not, you could do and handle so much more.
That's right.
Which I think impacts the glory of his kingdom.
That's right.
And that's our goal. Yeah. Use that to reach out to others. Other people anxiety and fear, and you can explain you have it too. There's nothing wrong with saying that. But you have a hope they don't have. Yeah. If they don't have Christ, you have a hope they don't have. Mm-hmm. And that opens the door to evangelism, to sharing the good news of the God who is there, right at hand, and guarding you with his peace in the midst of worry.
Right. Psalm 23, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
Yeah. You are with me.
But
you are right there.
You are with me.
You are right there. And so, okay, that's worry for now. We'll worry about other things later. But we have a couple more. We're going through the end of this month, I think, and we're going into June, maybe 1 or 2. I don't remember. I have it written down.
I do too.
All right.
I think it's a couple weeks into June.
We have a couple weeks into June, and then we'll take our summer break.
Right.
But for now, between
Don't
now
worry.
and next week, don't worry. We'll figure it out. It's fine. Don't worry about tomorrow, the next month, and the month after that. Sit on today. Pull out Philippians and walk through that whole piece again.
Yeah.
And I would say, take a deep breath. Speak facts into it. Verbalize it to someone. All of those things will help you along the road with that.
Yes.
So until next time, have a great week.
Take care.